Good afternoon, Cherries fans. Good afternoon, Coventry City fans. Welcome back to Up the Cherries in all departments. So we've already heard from Benjamin Bloom with regards to the two clubs, Coventry City and Luton Town, who might be making the Premier League this season. Only one of them can make it. The other one will be stuck in the Championship. But in this video, we're talking about Coventry, a team who were as recently in as 2017-2018 in League Two, where they won the playoff final. Since then, it's been a great dramatic rise to the edge of the Premier League. And it is a pleasure to welcome back onto the show somebody who knows about personal development, and also he's a mentor to many entrepreneurs. It is a pleasure to welcome back on Mark Sephton. Welcome back, Mark. How you doing?
Sky Blue Army. Oh, I'm living the dream, Craig. Absolutely living the dream. I'm enjoying all the euphoria around what is a very expectant Saturday, but also respectful.
Yeah.
It's one of those where I remember thinking, wow, we're only 4 games away from the Premier League, and that was before we'd even confirmed, our playoff place.
Yeah.
And then it's like, oh wow, like when we beat Middlesbrough away, it was literally like, wow, are we actually going to do this? Now, I found that Middlesbrough fans definitely thought they had us licked when they got a draw at our place, and I must admit, I felt like advantage was definitely theirs. We'd never beaten Middlesbrough at the Riverside. That we beat them for the first time, I think, in 14 attempts. It was either 13 or 14. Last Wednesday when we beat them 1-0 to set up the final with Luton.
Excellent stuff. Well, let's go back to last season, because it wasn't a bad season last year for Coventry, and you did pretty well. But going on to the start of this season, it's a strange one, wasn't it? Could you put it in the same? Because I spoke to Benjamin Bloom on this channel, as you may know, EFL expert, and he said you can't really put it in the same category as that what happened at Nottingham Forest, because there were so many games postponed. But then again, out of the first 6 games, you only had 1 point.
Yeah, it was pretty bleak. I mean, the thing is, Craig, is like, and I work in leadership a lot as well, and one
Yeah.
of my thoughts is when you hurt most, you grow most.
Mhm.
So if you think of the teams that are kind of resurgent, they all went through pain, and you find that it's transitional. That when you see teams and even people in life when they go through adversity, it definitely gives them energy, motivation, and perspective.
Yeah.
To move forward. And there were so many things that kind of happened, and yet because we've had problems continually for the last, I don't know, probably 20 odd years since we got relegated from the Premier League,
Mhm.
we've become very good at having to deal with uncertainty and having to deal with just nonsense, and yet always bounce back. So in some ways, that is one of the reasons why we've got the momentum now, because we're literally driving forward from the sense of what we've had to overcome. And that makes us a strong proposition, because it's not, if you think of football, Craig, a lot of it is mindset. And those lads have a really good, strong mindset. And that's why I think that we've gone to places like Middlesbrough now, turned them over, got what we needed to do. And that's why we're in the final. But I think that, would I have thought we would have got there? No, I didn't. Like when we were bottom, I was literally said to my daughter, I'd just be glad if we just survive and then just start again with a clean sheet. And now it's like we're 1 game away from the Premier League, and that I haven't given myself permission to even think about that yet, because it's not guaranteed. Do I think that we have better players than Luton. I do, but I don't see Luton day in, day out. They finished higher than us, so they deserve respect. I'm encouraged by the fact that none of the teams in the playoffs we actually lost to in the regular season. We took 4 points off all of them.
Yeah.
So for me, that says a lot as well in terms of, and I don't feel we're a team that are cocky. We
Yeah.
don't have a cockiness to us. Very down to earth, very determined. Yeah. So it's unbelievable where we've come from.
It's a remarkable turnaround. And I remember when Coventry were first relegated from the Premier League. Um, and to be honest, I can't, well, it wasn't in my lifetime when they were promoted last to the top flight. So it shows that it's been quite a downward spiral for many years after that relegation from the Premier League the first time round. And Coventry didn't find it easy, did they? And moved out of Highfield Road. Um, with regards to Highfield Road, do you miss the place, or do you feel that if you had kept hold of it, considering the issues that have been with the Rico and now the Coventry Building Society Arena, um, do you feel that you should have stayed at Highfield Road for a bit longer?
Yeah, I mean, hindsight's a wonderful thing. If you look at all the problems around the Rico, now called CBS, you would
Yeah.
definitely stay at Highfield Road because we own the stadium.
Hmm.
I mean, I think it was only about 23,500. So, it would be packed full. Um, and definitely, I think most people in the circumstances would say that, we should have stayed. But I feel like this is the best place we've been now in
Yeah.
terms of a new owner actually knows how to communicate with fans, has already created some initiatives already. And one of them was this Premier League season ticket that he dangled in front of people. I think it was just before the Birmingham City home game, and basically said that he's going to open up 5,000 season tickets, and they'll all be £500. It doesn't matter where. But the idea of this is for the next 5 seasons, the
Mhm.
ticket price, season ticket, will stay at 500. But if we get promoted within the next 5 years, that money will be refunded back. That £500 will be refunded back, right? So
Yeah.
I think once we made the playoffs, I think after the first game, they'd sold maybe 3,100. And then
Mhm.
after we beat Middlesbrough, to my surprise, there was still some left. And I just thought it's worth paying an extra 80 quid to
Yeah.
uh, to be refunded 500. And if not, then it goes towards the club's coffers. So, you've got a shrewd businessman. And actually, people did kick off about the rise in children's season tickets because I think they were so poorly priced. Like, I mean, they were like £25, and then when they went up to 200, people kind of squawked. But actually, he did hear, and he changed the kids' prices about 3 days after releasing the price list.
Mhm.
Fair play. That is, for me, that's really encouraging because, of course, you've got to have business, but unless you take care of people, you'll never be in business long. Um, for me, I don't like to live in the past. I have
Yeah.
memories of Highfield Road. My first game was against Arsenal. I remember we lost 2-0. Anders Limpar got both the goals
Mhm.
for them. But no, I tend to like to look forward in terms of like, obviously it's a better stadium. It's going to have a new pitch laid now, ready for the new season. Anyway, they've just spent I think 3 million on the training ground so that the pitches are the same standard as what they'll play in on a Saturday. For me, we've got to keep looking forward.
Yeah, definitely, definitely. And of course, you have got Gokares as well, who's been fantastic. Gustavo Hamer, who scored the goal to get you to Wembley. Callum O'Hare's been injured though this season, hasn't he?
Yeah, since October, he's been out, and he's not due back till September. Um, we really missed him at the start. Took
Hmm.
us a while. And we had some players that were just, for me, dog meat. And thankfully, Robbins moved them on, got them out the
Yeah,
door on loan. Um, for me, I'm quite critical because I always think that, if you want to be in the top six,
yeah,
my question is, can we recruit better than what we have? And if we can, then I'm not like one of these thinking, 6.5 or 7 out of 10 every Saturday is good enough. Like, if you want to be in the top six, you need to be at 8, 9. But yeah, I mean, it's great to have been able to do it without Casey Palmer and O'Hare, because they both took up the same position. But I feel like our midfield is probably the strongest midfield in the Championship. I think Ben Sheaf, Hamer, and then Kelly's come back in because he's been injured, but he's been like unbelievable, like in there. And then you've got other players like Jamie Allen, if he just wants to play with Gyökeres up front. That's funny as well. The amount of people when they try and say Gyökeres' name, I think the funniest one is I heard somebody say the guy from Coventry, Gorka. I was like, Gorka? It's like, what the heck is that? Gyökeres. Like, it's just, I just find it funny. And then some people call Hamer Hammer, and I'm like, he's not MC Hammer. He's Gustavo Hamer.
I've just been looking at, of course, your season, and to be fair, between the early September and the World Cup break, you only lost 2 games. But after that World Cup break, you had quite a barren run again. Um, do you feel that maybe Robbins struggles a little bit getting decent start early? Because it was like 2 seasons effectively this year, wasn't it?
Yeah, it killed us, to be fair, and
Mhm,
which is another amazing thing to know that I can think of 3 games off the bat that we threw away.
mhm.
But then when you think of Ben Wilson scoring that late goal against Blackburn, and that point being enough,
Yeah,
like, it's just, I guess it swings and roundabouts. I mean, we all as fans, we kind of dissect everything, the
yeah,
what ifs. Once if we had VR, and then people in the Premier League are talking about, all the VR decisions, and then I'm thinking, in the Championship, I'm like, oh, I could have done with VR then, but I would also probably be complaining about VR if we had it. Um, you do find that it's a whole flux of interesting things that go on in a season, for sure, Craig. Yeah.
Robbins, of course, has been in charge as well since the League Two days. He actually led you to promotion from League Two through the playoff final, and I didn't realise as well. Luton were in that same division.
Yeah.
Accrington Stanley won the league. Who are they? But I had to make that joke,
Get the
Mark.
milk out, Craig. Get the milk out.
Exactly. Yeah. But he's been loyal to the club and he hasn't moved away. I'm sure he's had plenty of offers. But that project from those days, how has he transitioned each step up to where you are now?
I mean, you talk about loyalty. To be fair, he owed us. In
Mhm.
my, I remember going to a JSB Christmas party. The first time he was in charge, and
Of course.
he was telling me that he loved it, and then I think literally 3 weeks later he took over at Huddersfield,
Mhm.
and I just thought, you rotten egg. Um, and he didn't. He did okay, I think, like with a couple of the jobs like Huddersfield, Rotherham. I think he did, and Scunthorpe. I think he did okay, but then like when he came back, I felt you really need to show some loyalty now because it's
Yeah.
you see it often when a player may come back, and it rarely works.
Mhm.
Rarely works where you get a returning player. I mean, if you think of Ronaldo, I mean, I could go off on a tangent, but for me, he's really spoilt the way he should be ending his career. What a
Yeah.
spoilt, petulant man! I just think,
Mhm.
Messi's doing all the right things when you think of character and spirit, and just integrity.
Yeah.
But anyway, going back to like, yeah, Robbins, it's it's like, I think one thing that I've noticed with him is he can be quite ruthless. There's always at least one player that he gets rid of every summer, and I wouldn't get rid of them. But I can't think of many players that he has got rid of that have gone on to do better. I mean, it's one thing selling a player because they have value and they want to go to a higher level, like your James Madisons, like your Callum Wilsons. But releasing players, there's not many that I could think of. So he definitely has that. But he seems to know when somebody's like reached their limit. But he probably takes the whole season to do that. I mean, Michael Rose, I would say, is a prime example now. We've only actually got McFadzean and Rose that are ours, because the other lads, Panzo, Doyle, he'll definitely play for England one day. So if you're a betting person, go and make a bet that he'll captain England one day. I think you'll make some money. And then we've got McNally as well from Burnley. And there's talk of him coming to us anyway permanently. I think that one may happen. And I would love to get Doyle back on a season loan, regardless of what league we're in. But it's interesting because I think that he's really good at kind of getting the best out of young people, but he does have this ruthless streak of kind of knowing when to get people out.
Yeah.
So you have to admire him for that, and it's almost like a bit of Alex Ferguson has rubbed off on him in terms of he's got the longevity now, and I think he's like the fourth longest serving manager in the whole of the EFL. I think there's only like a couple like Klopp that have been in the job longer.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But he's done a remarkable job, because
Yeah.
it was as recent as, was it 2017-18, that Coventry were in League Two, and that dramatic rise to the edge of the Premier League. Say, for example, and touch wood, this won't happen, but if Coventry weren't to go up, what are the biggest dangers? Because we've seen it with a number of teams. We saw it with Barnsley, where they dropped off and fell into League One. We saw it with Huddersfield, who were rescued by Warnock. Is there that risk?
Yeah, I mean, there's always that risk. I think like with Huddersfield though, they got rid of like their best players, O'Brien and Tuffalo. I remember they've
Mhm.
hardly had a sniff. I think O'Brien's ended up in America on loan from Forest, and Tuffalo, I think he's hardly played any games. Of course, there's always that risk. I think there's a lot. I mean, for me now, I feel like there's a lot on this game in terms of how I see it. I'm not one of these fans that are like, whatever happens, it was a great season. I couldn't stomach getting this far and then not doing this, if I'm honest, Craig. And this is just
Yeah.
me, because I have like in my own life, I have standards, and I haven't come this far just to come this far. In my eyes, we might as well not have made the playoffs unless we're going to make that step. But I'm probably, from what I can hear within in a number of our fans, especially on Twitter, like they just think, I hear it, I read it all the time, like whatever happens, it's been a great season, and it will have been, but I just think we haven't come and overcome all this just to kind of then drop off. And I do think when I look at the Premier League, and I'm thinking the three teams that are going to come down, let's just say it's Southampton, Leeds, and Leicester. I'm thinking Southampton are going to struggle, because I can't. I think that we nearly knocked them out of the FA Cup. It was very fine margins there. I mean, we played really well.
Yeah.
Scott Armstrong scored a wonder goal, because I think we were 1-0 up with about 10 minutes to go, and I can't remember exactly what happened. But I thought, they're not that far away from us, and we're much better now than what we were earlier in the season. I think the championship's going to be tough next year, and there's no guarantee. So I almost feel like you've got to seize this opportunity. And like you said, could next year they drop off? But then Luton, our opponents in the final, I think they made the playoffs last year.
They did, yeah.
Yeah, so that shows that they have consistency, and for them, they'll be wanting to make that final step. Though I think they lost in the semi-finals, didn't they? So they didn't
They
make it to
did,
the
yeah,
final.
yeah. They did get beat by Sunderland, but then come back.
Yeah, so we can do them a favour and beat them in the final. They would have got one step further, and they can. I'll root for them next season.
They can fight out next year. But if Coventry do make it, of course, it is known as the richest game in football. It's
Mm.
120 million pounds
It's more
on
than
the
that.
line.
It's
It's
more now. It's 160 now, Craig.
160. So
Yeah,
a couple of years
160.
behind. But it would be remarkable to Coventry to get that after so many years of struggle. What would be the first things the club and then Robbins would have to do?
Wow. I mean, I'm one of these guys that had lots of misspent youth playing Championship Manager and Football Manager, and
Yeah.
I can't out myself. Like, I mean, I must admit, even this week, I noticed that Ryan Kent, for example, was leaving Rangers, and we had him on loan before he went to Rangers from Liverpool.
Mhm.
And I'm just thinking, if we got promoted, would we have a chance to get a player like that? I don't know, because maybe he wants European football, which I think
Yeah.
he's probably more than capable of doing. But anyway, I'm looking at our squad and I'm thinking, for me, and again, I am quite brutal in terms of who I see. I feel like I'm fairly balanced. There's a couple of players I've got wrong. Ben Sheaf was one I never really saw much in him. I felt like he was slow. He'd give away unnecessary fouls. His passing was dire, and then all of a sudden he's just become blooming heck. He's different gravy, like now.
Yeah.
He's like one of the first. But I look at our squad, and I think if we were to make that step to the Premier League. I'm thinking 7 of those players for me could cut it, which means you're looking at needing to recruit 13 players. And I mean, Hamer cost us $1 million, right? It's
Yeah.
like, and he obviously has been with us now, I think, a couple of seasons. So he's now getting to a level where he is the best player on the pitch. He's been the best player on the pitch for the last 2 months. Doesn't matter who we're playing against. And we talk about Gyökeres because he's a goal scorer, but Hamer, in terms of all round, is unbelievable. That guy, and he's such a lovely guy as well. Like, for me, like if you could get 13 Gus Hamers in all the relative positions, but then you need a couple of seasons. And if I'm honest, Craig, because of these stupid parachute payments, which actually I don't agree with,
Yeah.
because I just think you see all these teams yo-yo. Well, it's no wonder. But it's like, I'm almost to the point of, as long as we don't embarrass ourselves, and again, I kind of say this, no, because we're not there yet. I'd much rather have a conversation with you once we're there, because I, at the end of the day, a final is really on who turns up on the day.
Yeah.
I mean, I know that if we turn up on our best, we will blow Luton to shreds.
Mhm.
But if we don't, and they do, they also could do the same. I mean, it was only last season they beat us 5-0 at their place. So, and they've got a lot of those players still around. There's a couple of their forwards like Adebayo. He'd be the person I would go and get if we sold Gyökeres.
Yeah.
And obviously, I think his future is really down to this game as well. He will end up in the Premier League or one of the top European leagues next season, unless we get promoted, because I don't think any of the big clubs are going to touch him yet. The amount of chances he gets, though, if he was more clinical, he probably scores 1 in 4 of
Yeah.
those. If he converted those, his numbers would be like Haaland. He would literally be there.
Mhm.
But he's not. And it could be one of those like Mitrovic, where he really struggled in the first season in the Premier League, went back to the Championship, blew the records away, and then managed to continue that in the Prem. So it is. It's difficult. Can players continue to grow with the higher level? Like it's gonna be interesting. I haven't been able to go there yet though, Craig. Like ask me on Sunday.
Yeah. Of course, the current stadium, it's owned by Mike Ashley at this moment in time, or the Fraser Group. Um, do you think that would be on the agenda with this Premier League money to buy it back for the football club?
I mean, it's tough because our chairman,
Mhm.
Doug King,
Yeah,
he offered 25 million for the stadium before it changed hands to Ashley, who bought it for 15 million. And the reason why it went to Ashley is because they had a pre-signed agreement with him.
mhm.
So our owner was already willing to pay 25 million.
Yeah,
Now he's a businessman, Doug King. So I would imagine he would have already have offered 25 million as soon as he took over. I would
yeah,
imagine, but I don't know. And Ashley could like make a cool 10 million.
mhm.
And I know that Ashley loves to uh, flip distressed assets, but it's also an asset that is within his vision and remit, in terms of venues and stuff. And they like to
Yeah,
grow a portfolio. But it kind of gives both men an opportunity to actually to a, do a deal, because obviously if we get that money, then it's not King's money,
mhm.
and then Ashley could get 5 times his initial investment. So they could both end up smelling like royalty by the end of it. But I mean, it's the best it's been for me. A club needs to own its stadium. We've got an agreement for what I think the next 5-10 years,
Yeah.
and I don't know what that looks like per se, but I think that they're both businessmen, so I think if a deal can be done, it will be done.
Of course, we don't own our own stadium, and it's owned by Structure Dean. So we're effectively paying rent to Structure Dean and sold it years ago when the football club was in trouble. But do you feel that because of this promotion, let's be honest, Dean Court is an asset which is very very small. That is a stadium. You have got a stadium which is built for the future, and I believe can be extended upon as well, can't it?
Yeah, I believe it can. I think it can, and I mean, we're not there yet. You would need to. I think you'd need to be in the Premier League like for a considerable amount of time,
Yeah.
because I think our average is, I don't know, it might be like 21,000, but I don't know for definite. Craig, I think the last few home games we've been getting between 28 and 30,000,
Mhm.
which is deemed at full capacity in terms of security, even though there's empty seats, but
Yeah.
segregation. Um, and I think that it has the framework. I mean, for me, it's like, are we progressing in every way possible? Yes, on the pitch, off the pitch, management, players, staff, fans, we're all progressing,
Yeah.
so it's exciting, but is there still opportunities to grow? Yeah, there definitely is.
Yeah. Definitely. Definitely. What is your take though on clubs selling their stadiums? Because of course, it was a stadium which I believe Coventry owned originally, didn't they? And then it was sold. Um, there seems to be a trend for that at the moment. Of course, we've had Derby, Sheffield Wednesday, we've had Reading do that. I'm sure there's numerous others. Those three are the big ones because those three are ones that have been relegated to League One and been docked points. But do you feel that that needs to stop effectively?
Yeah, I mean, I always say to people in life, look at the fruit.
Hmm.
We've all got the same thing in common, which is just it goes south.
Yeah,
All those teams have just been down and had to fight, and some are making it and some aren't. I mean, I mean, Sheffield Wednesday again, 4-0, like down to Peterborough and come back. Why? Because they have resilience. Why? Because they've been
Yeah.
through the mill. And that's the thing that makes, I mean, Luton are the same. They've had, so that's why I think a lot of the teams that are now punching is because, yeah, they have that perspective. But yeah, it needs to stop because the fruit isn't, there's no positive fruit that's being produced from making decisions, like that. I mean, it's the same.
Yeah.
Like if you own your property and then you end up selling it and then you have to pay to rent in it, how miserable. Like,
Mhm.
I can't think of anything worse. It's like having your ass handed to you, isn't it?
Exactly.
Hmm.
Exactly. Why I mention those three clubs as well is those are all clubs that gamble to get into the position that Coventry and Luton have done the right way.
Yeah, I mean, it's it's difficult because I don't think there is a blueprint for that, and I clearly think that there's much better ways to achieve your objective, and sometimes less is more.
Yeah.
It's much better to build continually and steadily than kind of be kamikaze. Um, I mean, as a rule of thumb, anyway, Craig. I mean, even in the way that I have managed my own finances. If I don't have the money, then I don't buy it. It's
Yeah.
simple as that. And if you have a business, you can't be spending money you don't have. I
Mhm.
mean, yeah, you have all these loans and things, and people say you got to spend like to accumulate. But it's like for me, it's much better to be able to be creative in the money that you have, and grow so that actually you can handle the responsibility and the finances that come that way, rather than have these kamikaze business owners that seem to think they can make a quick buck from something that actually does take time.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. Um, with regards as well to, if you are promoted back to the Premier League,
You're you're
um,
you're doing it, aren't you, Craig? You're
yeah,
teasing me. If
if you are, how much can you look to the actual example that we've shown, especially in that first time round when we were promoted in 2015? We'd never been as high as the Premier League under Eddie Howe, gradually building sensible plan and managed to stay there for 5 years. And a lot of fans will say unfairly booted out the Premier League through Hawkeye and VAR, and of course COVID took place then as well.
so, what's the question here, Craig, on this one?
So, how much can you actually look to what we've done and try and replicate that?
What, Bournemouth? You mean?
Yeah. So, could Coventry do the same?
Yeah, I mean, it's really hard, isn't it? It's hard to put myself there when I've been
Mm.
really wanting to just take this one step at a time,
Yeah.
and I'm gonna seem like an absolute fool uh, answering this. And then if Luton go beat us, I'll be like, oh, please. Um, I know for me, it's like I want us to get there first,
Yeah.
before that I can even like think about what we should then aim for, because like I think I said, like, for me it's like, I mean, for me it's like, would I, if the question was, if you're promoted this
Yes.
season but then get relegated next season, I would take that over
Yeah.
over not getting promoted, because for me it's like you're going to end up with those parachute payments.
Mhm.
um, People are going to want to come to us because, just like they wanted to come to Burnley, we were in for players like Burnley were, and they picked Burnley. Like Matson was one of them. He was fantastic for us at left wing back. He went to Burnley because obviously, he knew that they were had the pedigree of the Premier League, and managed to keep a lot of their players. Um, so you have that. So for me, it's kind of like, you know, can you consolidate, and I look at the teams that are going up. It's like Burnley. I think, yeah, Burnley beat us 1-0 home and away.
Yeah.
But Sheffield United, I think we beat them and they beat us. So
Mhm.
I feel like the teams that were going up, I feel like they're not that. Even though Burnley did absolutely smash it, I think that with if you take away our problems that we had at the start, I think that we would have done much better if we'd had a good situation.
Yeah.
But it's all relative. And then I'm thinking, there's teams in the Premier League where I'm like, yeah, I'd fancy. There's some games I just think we get absolutely spanked.
Mhm.
Um, and then there's other teams I think that we could give a good account of ourselves and a good run of the money. But I think that people like Bournemouth. I mean, to be fair, I thought Bournemouth would go down this season.
Yeah.
Um,
You're not
I
the only one.
No, I mean, I like the Premier League. I
Yeah.
am completely neutral though,
Yeah.
so I don't have any agenda. I just watch football.
Mhm.
I love watching Match of the Day. I've always watched it since I was a kid. And if football wins, I'm happy. But when I look at it, I mean, when I think of Bournemouth, there's a couple of players who I really feel like, because I've seen them in the
Yeah.
Championship, they're like how I see Hamer and Gyökeres,
Mhm.
where I people like Solanke. I've watched him. Um, he's a great player. I've
Yep. Completely agree.
always enjoyed watching him, and he will actually improve if you get better players around him. Because for me, there's still players that play for Bournemouth that for me are Championship players.
Mhm.
But I could kind of do that with most clubs, Craig. For us to take over as manager, apart from Man City,
Yeah.
there'd be players that play for all the teams where they wouldn't even make my squad,
Mhm.
and I just think it's hilarious. But yeah, I mean Bournemouth, they've done so well, like it's incredible, And if you can add, two or three quality players every season, then actually that's how you start to establish yourself,
Yeah.
But I'm just like, I would take promotion now. As long as we don't embarrass ourselves and get like the least amount of points, which I think is Derby. I don't know the stats
Yeah.
though.
I
Do you
think
know the
it was
stats,
about
Craig?
12, 13. I'm not sure. I can't remember what year it was as well.
I can't see that, but it's going to
11.
be very tough.
11 points. Yeah, I'm sure you'll get more than those.
I do as well. I mean, that is
Yeah.
that is horrific.
Mhm. But I think it would be amazing to see Coventry back in the Premier League. It's a side that I remember watching Match of the Day, and you had players like Huckabee was on the pitch, wasn't he? And
Oh,
Agrivis, I can't ever say his name. I can't ever say his,
Agrizovic.
Agrizovic.
Yeah.
Agrizovic. Yeah, in goal. Dion Dublin.
Oh, I mean, we had an incredible team. We had
Yeah,
Gary McAllister, we had George Boateng, we had Steve Froggatt. It was ridiculous. We had Richard Shaw. We had like incredible players, and then we'd have some like workhorses like your Paul Taufers. It's
yeah,
just he obviously played for Luton as well, and yeah, it was unbelievable. Like some of the players we had Hadji and we had Chippo. Those Moroccan guys were the first kind of African guys, and Unlove, obviously, he was the
hmm
first African to play in the Premier League.
yeah,
Unbelievable. Just, yeah, some of the players we had were ridiculous, And as a kid, I grew up on Premier League football. I watched the Dennis Bergkamps come to town, the Eric Cantonars. I was spoiled, and then had
yes,
to go through watching League Two football. And then I remember watching Gail Bigaramana, who's a friend of mine, play for Newcastle against Man United. I went to St James's Park the same season I was watching Coventry League Two, and I was like, "Holy mackerel!" Like the gulf was ridiculous. The
Mm.
speed, the agility, the skill, the crowds, the atmosphere. It was like, oh my word, unbelievable.
It would be fantastic to see Coventry back. What we will do is we'll do a prediction for the game in a moment as well. Yeah,
Oh,
sorry, Mark. But of course, you are an author as well. I do have all your books, but go on, plug your books
plug
to
my
everybody.
books.
Yeah,
Really?
plug the books. Yeah, come on.
Plug my books.
Yeah.
Well, my latest one is called Mark of a Man,
Yes.
and it's about the expectations, responsibilities of being a man. And I do
Mhm.
talk through the lens of my own divorce. So I married at 21. I was divorced at 37. So I do talk about some of that so that people can really understand, men can really understand what I'm getting at.
Yeah.
Because I do talk about emotions. You know, we've had lots of campaigns about getting men to talk, but it's not, it's actually more than that now. It's actually about our ability to listen,
Mhm.
about our ability to listen to self. It's
Yeah.
about understanding that our emotions are feedback. They're neither bad or good. You know, it's about breaking some of the old thought habits like big men don't cry, you know, and actually realizing that actually one of the most attractive things to a woman is vulnerability. And it doesn't mean it's all about reading the room. So being vulnerable, you know, you don't air your dirty washing out for everybody to
Yeah.
see, but it is about when you hurt, having a safe space to communicate that and explain why you hurt. And so the book is helping men to really understand their emotions, but then how to express them, how to honor them, and then move out of that. And I talk a lot about my divorce through this because some of the most difficult emotions to navigate have derived from a separation, a loss, a divorce. I need
Yeah.
people to be able to I need to kind of get people's trust and that they know what I'm on about because I'm sharing my own struggle and vulnerability and the fact that I had to cry every day for 6 months, even though it was my choice that my marriage was over. But I do that in order to really help men kind of become better men. I mean, that's the
Yeah.
whole premise. If you're a man and you want to be better, then that's why I wrote it. It's not to make men into me, it's to make men into better men.
All the details about the book will be below in the description. And honestly, I do suggest everybody gets a copy because it actually, this is quite a funny story, isn't it? Back on Twitter, how long ago was it? Probably about 12 months ago. Um, there was somebody who was a little bit down, and I, of course, responded. And you realised and you thought, oh, hang on, that's something I wrote.
Mm.
So once you read it, you will be able to echo it as well. And I think it's a fantastic bookmark. It's really,
Ah,
really good, mate. And I would recommend it to anybody, whatever they're going through. So yeah, all the details are in the description and order yourself a copy. Let's go back to the football though.
we have to.
The bit you're dreading. um, biggest game for Coventry in many, many, many years. How is it going to go? Is it going to be a tight game? Is it going to be a game where a team runs away with it? We've seen finals like that. Most of them are quite tight. Um, how do you think this is going to go?
It's 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 tough because of what's riding on it.
Yeah,
Um, it's like the more that you know that's at stake, the more kind of that you want it, but also the more it could hurt.
yeah,
I mean, I think for some neutrals, uh, it depends on their age, but for I think for people like my age, I feel like they probably want to see Coventry in the Premier League more. But
mhm,
I think maybe for younger, they'll probably be laughing at the fact that either Coventry or Luton will be in the Premier League. Um, you know, I'm always going to back my team. I'm
yeah,
not I'm not cocky. I mean, Luton are there for a reason. They are much more direct. We're a footballing team. I like the fact that obviously Wembley's a great surface, so that's really going to suit us. But
yeah,
they killed Sunderland because they bullied them. Now we aren't easily bullied. It's not. We're much more of a footballing team, but we have players that are and can be aggressive. And
yeah,
McFadzean, for example, he is a brick wall.
Yeah.
I mean, that guy will put his head everywhere. He's not the quickest, but neither is their guy up front, Morris. Adebayo, he is the one I see is a big threat. Like, I've always enjoyed watching him.
Mhm.
Um, I mean, we've both sold out as well, so we're both going to have 36,000 fans. For me, I've yet to see a team that can outsing us. So I think atmosphere-wise, we'll beat anybody just for the crowd, and we've
Yeah.
got songs for every player, and we're vocal, and we've been through a lot. I mean, Luton have as
Mhm.
well. Um, I definitely feel like we will do it. I feel it'll be 2-1. Um, I've got a 100% record at Wembley as well, so I'm really kind of just hoping like just these stats are just what I'm telling myself. Um, yeah, I think that. I mean, like this season there's been so many records, Craig. The most
Yeah.
clean sheets we've ever kept in our history. It's like
Mhm.
Ben Wilson's got the Golden Glove. He got 22, I think, clean sheets.
Yeah.
Like, and he's for me, he's good, but he's not great.
Mhm.
I'd never pick him as I for me out of all the keepers I saw in the championship, even though he's on loan from Newcastle, Carl Darlow was the best keeper I've seen. you
Yeah.
know. But anyway, he didn't get anywhere near it because obviously it's a collective, isn't it? It's the whole team. Just like the
Mhm.
whole team scores a goal, but it's always the individual scorer who gets the plaudits. It's the goalkeeper. Um, so for me, I think we're hard to beat. And we've got Doyle and McNally are two of the best young centre backs I've seen, with McFadzean in the middle. I get frustrated with Bidwell because for me he's not a left wing back, and we've got the guy on loan from Man City who has shown in the last few games, but not recently, that he can beat a man. So
Yeah.
if we need a goal, that's going to happen. But otherwise, Bidwell he's reliable in terms of he's defensive, and then Norton Cuffy on loan from Arsenal. It's taken him a little while to go, but he's starting to go now, and I love his mindset. He's got such a great mindset. And the midfield, for me, that's where we're strong. And then I feel like he probably will go with Gyökeres up front on his own, and he'll put Jamie Allen in there because that's what we did against Middlesbrough, and it worked. And I feel like we just absorbed. I think we had 30% possession against Middlesbrough, and we just turned that ball over and got them on the counter attack.
Yeah.
And I think that we will do that with Luton as well. But they are really good at set pieces. Uh, and it really depends. Both lots of players and fans are going to be up for it. They finished higher than us. We're finishing like a train. I,
Yes.
I, I just think that I've seen it before when I've played football. I remember playing against the team that were in the lower division. They'd already knocked out 3 teams in the top division. We played them in the final. They beat us 2-1. They scored 2 worldies. And when you look back at it, you just think when your name's on your cup, the name's on the cup.
Yeah.
I'm a little bit like that, but also wish it wasn't me who's having to go through it. I'm looking forward to Wembley with my daughter, absolutely.
Mhm.
Um, and we've had some great moments, and I've gone down there twice now, and we've come back euphoric. Um, I'm a feeler, Craig. So if we do that, I will be absolutely, beyond belief giddy. But if we lose, it will hurt, and it will. I don't know. I don't know because the season ends then anyway. It's like
Yes. Yeah.
so. It's either like or it's like yeah. And obviously, I've got this initiative of this £500 season ticket. If Coventry win, I get my money back.
Well, hopefully you're getting a refund then.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, that'd be nice. On Monday morning, there's a refund straight away in the account. Well, it won't be Monday morning because it's bank holiday, but Tuesday. But no,
It's
it would be
difficult,
amazing.
but I think we will edge it.
Yeah, it will be. It's going to be a dramatic game. You know, um, with regards to there's a lot of people that have been saying about Kenilworth Road. Is it going to be a Premier League ground? But it's the story of these two clubs, and the story of Coventry, especially, who've in my in my lifetime remember them in the Premier League. It'd just be amazing to see you back there, Mark. So, fingers crossed for you, and hopefully, you never know, we'll be doing this next season. Any more books on the horizon? You're going to be writing a new one?
You know, I definitely have another book in me, but it isn't a priority like right now. I know what it's called, I know what it'll be about, but I've been writing much more articles lately because
Yeah.
I feel like I'm making much more traction with those, and
Mhm.
it's a lot more tangible. Everybody, I'm one of these people that once everybody starts doing it, then I tend to lose interest. I mean,
Yeah.
everybody's writing a book. I mean, there's so many books. It's like, oh, another book. And a book takes it's a time, it's a commitment. But an article, if I write an article that takes 3 minutes to read, people are going to read that. They're probably going to get as much respect and knowledge from me through that than they are from a book. So it's a
Yeah.
little bit like I'm a little bit like, and it's all about energy management. But what about you, Craig? Who are you predicting? And have you spoken to a Luton fan and kind of where are they at?
I haven't spoken to a Luton fan as yet.
Okay,
Haven't spoken to a Luton fan as yet. I think it's going to be extremely close. Extremely close.
isn't 2-1 extremely close?
It is, yeah. It is, to be honest.
Are you going to put me
Um,
through penalties or something cruel like that?
to be honest, it's my decision is changing by the day because at one point I did think Luton they did finish, the season, on 80 points, wasn't it? And of course they come back against Sunderland, which is no mean feat. I think when a team comes back, it shows a real character. But then again, I think Coventry, when you look at that run into that playoff final, one defeat in 19,
Mm,
you
yeah.
can't. And 9 times out of 10, it's the team that has got that momentum that actually goes on and wins it.
It was definitely Nottingham Forest when they. I remember we played Nottingham Forest because we were in with a shout still of making the
Yeah,
playoffs, and I remember they had Keenan Davis up front, who I thought was unbelievable. Then he's tanked actually at Watford. That really surprised me because he was just an absolute menace,
yeah,
and I was like, I'd love to get him on loan, and obviously Watford got him. But Forest, they just had that little bit extra, and their momentum was nuts. And I was just like, I actually predicted that Forest would do the best out of the three teams that went
yeah.
up, right? And then he recruited 20 odd players, and I'm like, oof, that's insane. Like, and they've done it
Yeah.
now, but like, yeah, for me, it's like, yeah, we just got to get over the line now. Got to get over the line.
Well, I've got my fingers crossed for you, Mark. When on Sunday, well, to be honest, it's a nice end to the season. We didn't expect it, to be honest. We expected to be in that relegation battle. I thought it was going to go down to the last game of the season, us or Everton. That would have been it would have been great for the neutrals, but to be honest, I would have been having panic attacks. I think. I mean, to Goodison.
I mean, would you personally like to relegate Everton? Would you enjoy that?
Oh, do you know what? I'm actually doing a show at the moment with fans of each of the sides in this relegation battle. And if you want me to nail, right, okay, I'm going to do it. I'm going to do it. I'm going to say who I'd rather stay up. Um, I'd actually quite like to see Everton stay up.
Okay.
I've got, and to be honest, I've got an affiliation with the club. I've got lots of friends as well who are Evertonians. So
And your favourite sweet is a toffee, isn't it? You love a toffee.
yeah, toffees are nice. Although saying that, salted caramel, I'd rather salted caramel. So, but in all in all honesty, Mark, I think on Sunday, I think Leeds will beat Spurs. Not sure about Leicester. Not really sure what they're going to do. Um, but I can see only one result, and I think that's an Everton 2-0 win against ourselves because A, we don't really need the points. Yes, it would be great. Every place is an extra couple of million, but at the same time, we are safe. And can you imagine 40,000 roaring Scousers in Goodison, probably setting off fireworks outside our team hotel the night before as well? The atmosphere is going to be, they're going to be kicking every ball for their side. But on the spin side, if we go ahead, it's going to become a very, very hostile place, Goodison Park.
Mm.
And I think it's going to be the fans that get Everton across the line.
Mm. We'll see. Because
If it was
I think if a game of football was ever just down to fans, we'd be at the top of the Premier League.
yeah. But yeah, I tell you what, it's going to be interesting. It's going to be interesting. I think there will be points during the day where it looks like Everton are going down. There's probably points in the day where it looks like each of those sides are staying up. Leeds have got the hardest task, but personally, I think Everton are going to. I think Everton are going to beat us, and that, of course, will keep them up. They've got that fan base. They have got, but you never know in football. I would say if it was at Dean Court, they'd be in real trouble.
Yeah, it's horrible. Like even in our last game where we had the 90% chance of making the playoffs.
Yeah.
There was one point during that game, even though we never went behind, where we were out of the playoffs because Millwall were winning. I can't remember. I think West Brom were winning.
Yeah.
And they needed a bit of a swing. And I think Sunderland were winning as well. And we were drawing, and it literally put us into 7th place.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden, we went ahead. And then that changed things. And by the time Middlesbrough scored, Blackburn had come back to be drawn with Millwall, and then we were back in it. And then it ended that we came 5th, and Sunderland knocked Millwall and Blackburn out. So, it's horrible. At least with this, it's a straight shoot off.
Yes.
And I guess that more encouragement I've got is I think for me personally, a one-off game against Luton for me is easier than a head-to-head with Middlesbrough twice for me.
Yeah. You've already done that.
Yeah, we've already beat Luton and drew with them at their place, and this is an even playing field. But I don't underestimate them. Like I said, Middlesbrough fans were very confident they were going to beat us.
Yeah.
And we pulled their pants down. Got the job done. I love doing it in their own backyard. With Wembley, it's like neutral, isn't it? I mean, the atmosphere. Yeah. The club have bought every Cov fan flags, so we're going to be an ocean of blue, right? Yeah. We didn't have that even in the League Two playoff or the Checker Trade Trophy, so that is going to be something special. Just to see that, you know. The thing is like if you're a football fan and you support a team. For me, it's like, I don't know. I think that you should support the team where you were born. I mean, and there is some exceptions.
Yeah.
And there's influences. But people changing teams is odd for me. It's like I wouldn't dream of changing teams, even in League Two. Was I going to go to Leicester or Villa because in the Premier League? Heck no. It's like I'd rather go to League Two. It's my team. It's my club. So, that's it. And, yeah. I'm just hoping that we can make this last step. And I tell you, if we do, I want another podcast with you, and I just want to go nuts. And then I'll answer anything, and I'll tell you who we should sign, who we should get rid of, how many Bournemouth players would get into Cov side, how many Cov players would get into Bournemouth side, and just have a frenzy.
Should we do it next week?
Only if.
Only if, yeah. I'll hold you to that, Mark.
Yeah, yeah,
I'll
you
hold
can.
you to
That
that.
that would that I would love the opportunity to just geek out on that because I
Yes.
know from the championship I'd be able to tell you who I would get because
Mhm.
I've watched a lot of championship football the last few seasons. I kind of have my own players that I know can make that step to
Yeah.
the Prem. And I know the ones that can't. I mean, we do have an awful lot of players that I feel have reached
Mhm.
their limit. It's just that
Yeah.
we've got 7 players in our 11 that for me are in that top end of championship into bottom end of the Prem.
Well, fingers crossed. And I tell
Mm.
you what, we will do that next week. If Coventry are promoted to the Premier League, Mark is coming back on, and it'll be a bit of a celebration. And we'll get some more Coventry fans on. Shall we just get a whole group of you?
We can do.
Get Gareth with us, and there's a guy called Mark as well, who also I speak to. Sky Blue podcast.
Ah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
There's a lot of them. There's a lot of them around. A lot of them
yeah.
around.
We'll
Yeah,
get them all on. We'll get them all on. But thank you so
sounds
much,
good.
mate. It's been an absolute pleasure.
Yeah, it's been really good, Craig. Thank you as always.
Not a problem at all, mate.
Sky Blue Army.
And thank you, everybody, for joining us on this show. Please remember to hit the like, the subscribe, the bell button below to be alerted to any new videos we do here on Up the Cherries and All Departments. Please also do check out our other videos. Of course, we've had Benjamin Bloom on recently. Also, do check out our recent interview with Damon Minchella of course, Ocean Colour Scene. So do check that out as well. Until the next video, up the cherries, and we'll see you in the next one. Thank you for joining us.